Hello and welcome to Pathfounders with me, Mike Butcher, where we like to unpack the code, the capital and the consequences of the startup ecosystem. David Helgason has spent 2 decades helping developers build virtual worlds as the founding CEO of Unity. Now he does Transition, a cross-Atlantic VC based out of London. The firm's LPs include founders behind companies such as Spotify, Klarna, and Supercell, and its portfolio ranges from refurbished e-bikes and wildfire drones to photonics computing, small modular nuclear reactors, and a copper mining startup using microbes to squeeze more metal from existing ones. As you can tell, it's quite diverse, and it's often been associated with climate technology. Now, he's looking to back founders building in the physical world, aside from the virtual world. So to join us now is David. Thanks very much for joining us on Pathfounders.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Now, David, you have been known as looking at some very interesting deep tech companies. Before we get into the announcement that you're making this week, just tell us a little bit about the background to Transition.
Sure. So let's see. I founded Unity many years ago. It's like a lifetime at this point. Very proud of the work we did there. The company is still going. I remained on the board until recently, actually. But when I stepped out of my operating role like 11 years ago, I sort of went on a bit of a journey investing in startups, spending time with founders, which had kind of been my passion already, but now I had time for it and a little bit of capital along the way. So I became a very prolific angel investor, initially in things I knew something about, like games, tools, software tools, and stuff like that. But then I'm so lucky that I have a brother who started a synthetic biology company kind of roughly at the same time when I was getting out of Unity. And so I kind of followed him into kind of this kind of deep tech synthetic biology rabbit hole. And down there I found like incredible founders, really cool scientists coming up with like new kind of processes to replace a lot of the old industrial, nasty, dirty, polluting, and climate change inducing industrial system. And so I was like, okay, here's a mission. I'll invest in these guys. I'll work with them. I'll learn from them. I'll teach them what I know, and that's going to be good. So I did a bunch of that. Along the way, I also became an investor in a bunch of venture funds. So I got up kind of you could say like a sort of a view of this stuff from multiple sides, as an entrepreneur, friend of founders, as an angel investor, and as an LP into venture funds. And I sort of came to conclude that there was a space to build like a really dedicated, passionate, kind of first principles led venture fund out of Europe. And I'm so blessed that I have another brother, cool family, who was coming from a kind of a very strong start of a career venture, Ari Helgason, who was at Index Ventures before. And he had sort of seen some of the same opportunities, these kind of new processes, like old industrial system kind of creaking and like not really doing what it needs to do. And we had this feeling that, it wasn't as clear back then maybe, but that the sort of old enterprise SaaS, let's just improve a bunch of digital processes in big companies a little bit here and there, was kind of going to come to an end at some point. And the next wave was going to be about like rewriting the old industrial system. So I started building 5 years ago. I put a bit of my own money on the line, but then we were lucky to find some great both institutional investors and founders of some great companies to come on the journey with us. Put together a great team in London and started investing.
So do you want to just bring us up to date to where you are now, and then we'll get into the news?
Sure. So we invested the first fund over 3 years or 2.5 years or whatever, and then raising that was a misery. By the way, the Ukraine war had started. It's just really hard for people to think about anything but war when there's a war going on. Apparently, understandably, by the way, and it's important. But all these kind of interlinked crises of climate, sustainability, pollution, energy, grids, all these interlinked crises are like not going away. They're getting worse. Lacks of resources, mining is a problem. Everything is a problem. But the cool thing is there's processes to fix these things. So it was hard to get done, but we got it done. Then we, as venture funds do, by the way, venture funds are, I found out, default dead for many fund generations because many funds will like not raise again for various reasons. But we pulled off a second fundraise, so we're announcing now that we raised the second fund. It's kind of news at 11. A venture fund keeps doing its work, but we're proud of it, and I think it speaks to there's a while climate is kind of out of the headlines as a topic. The underlying companies that are like using resources better, compute with less power, more efficient distribution of power, and all these things that we mentioned already.
Yeah. So
those needs are not going away, right?
Yeah. So it's very true. I certainly, as a journalist, I've covered the climate space for a while, and a lot of the time it was just the climate was the overarching word, but then it really became about energy and cost savings, and I think that seems to be how it's being reframed to some extent. But let's talk about this news that you've just closed your second fund at over $150 million. That's bringing assets under management to 300 million. Now, tell us about how you're going to be changing the thesis, or if you're going to be changing the thesis. I know that you're also very interested in the physical AI. So tell us a bit about more where you're going to go next with this second fund.
Sure. So when we were getting started, we were like, what's the good framing here? And there's sustainable development goals, but they're kind of political in nature. There's like pure carbon stuff, which is important, but I think you kind of makes you myopic to all the other problems that are like interlinked. So we settled on a pretty big and very thoughtful scientific framework called the planetary boundaries by the Stockholm Resilience Center, which quantifies 9 systems that we sort of have to live inside of more or less in order for this thing to work. And obviously, most of these systems are under immense pressure right now. And they also sort of they basically tell us where we can't go, right? So if we can't go there, then we have to figure out stuff, inside of these boundaries. So that doesn't change. We actually stayed in that framework. But yeah, like, the first fund we did invest in a carbon removal company. I thought it was the best one. It, went out of business tragically. But
which one was that?
It's a running tight. Incredible. I could talk about it for a long time. I still have PTSD over it, and how it failed in all kinds of, it is always like, there's always like 5 different reasons why things fail in the end. But, brilliant founder, brilliant tech, and so on. We unfortunately won't be doing more of those right now. However, there's a massive boom and, kind of AI-inspired, AI-powered advanced manufacturing. We're finally getting to build factories that are, extremely efficient, extremely automatable, and so on. So, of course, we're investing in those topics because we think, there's no way to overcome the climate crisis without those. Mining minerals, we've invested in some really interesting companies that can kind of extract, the metals we need, the rare earths, etc., for all these kind of new processes we're building. And of course, data centers, and everything around them is very, very exciting as well.
Well, that's quite a wide thesis, isn't it? Do you think 150 is going to be able to cover all of those things, or are you going very early into deep tech style investing, or what?
Yeah, it's sort of, a little bit of pre-seed, mostly seed, Series A. No, it won't cover all the companies, but we're also just looking for the best founders, the companies that can grow really, really large. Because the sad thing is that while in theory all the technologies to solve all these crises exist, it's going to be companies built by amazing founders that scale really, really large that will matter. And so only a few of these problems will really get solved. And we just have to find, the people that are solving them and making great companies out of it. So yeah, that's it's a fairly small team. We're 4 investors, so we're like really looking at, just 25 companies or so over a few years.
You're based out of London, but you also characterize yourself as cross-Atlantic. Is that about flipping countries to the US, or how does it work for you?
Well, no. So, Ari, my brother, who came from Index Ventures, right? He saw and lived this playbook for a long time. Index was obviously the only fund that like the whole time kept investing across the Atlantic. Other people have come and gone. And there's a great discipline to that, really having eyes on both sides of the Atlantic, seeing what's best, not just investing in the best local company, but the best one, hopefully. It turns out that a lot of these companies need to cross the Atlantic in various ways early on, both directions for monies, talent, for customers. Europe is obviously still, decarbonizing and still actually, caring about a lot of these problems that are maybe being ignored some other places. And so, we find that companies can come here for customers. And we have good work on both sides. We're really well connected and can help and have helped some of our companies really a lot.
Okay. And perhaps you could unpack a bit more about maybe how you're going to approach AI. Is it going to be more application led? Are you interested in the model side? Are you interested in more like the actual application of it inside industrials, manufacturing, etc.?
Yes. So yeah, we jokingly, it's always you can always come up with some stupid kind of taglines like molecules to models was one of the stupid taglines we came up with recently, right? So it's thinking about how these things connect, right? And so every company, I don't think anyone invests in companies these days that don't have some kind of strong AI component, and we barely do. So it's using AI to discover molecules, to do certain things, using AI to optimize the bacterial strains that can then optimize the mining. There's a lot of these kind of optimization problems. And then of course, a company like Olix, which is just addressing the biggest product category market of all time, like the raw AI compute, right?
And tell us a little bit about the kinds of founders you're interested in.
Sure. We'll have different flavors between the partners, but I just fall in love with founders that have a lot of technical depth and sort of insane ambition under a layer of calm. That's my type. But no, it's all kinds of people, frankly. Companies can be created by such different people, and they can be successful in so different ways. I don't think there's any one model that works. I was an extremely gentle leader. I never pushed, I rarely screamed, and so on. But you can find people that are the opposite that are also successful.
You were obviously CEO of Unity, involved in that for a long time. What's your impression about how that? It's clearly been an issue that. Let me start again. You were the CEO of Unity for a long time, and the virtual world took off really in games largely, didn't it? And we saw that Mark Zuckerberg killed off the metaverse, spent billions of dollars in the metaverse, and has largely killed it off. Apple's vision glasses didn't really take off. What are your thoughts about that, where that kind of whole sector of technology went and it is today?
I said somewhere along the way that virtual reality had been the greatest disappointment of my life because when I saw the Oculus headset the first time, Brent and Uribe brought it to our office in Copenhagen back in, I don't know, before they did the Kickstarter anyway, and it was incredible. It was a really janky piece of hardware, but it was just incredible to have this experience of being somewhere else. And I was excited about it. We had great hopes for it. We are found use cases all over, industrial use cases and designers and architects, and I mean it's not a failure, right? It's wonderful, and the technology now is really good. But yeah, no, I mean at all times it was competing with these guys, right? These guys are very hard to compete with. And I think at some point people realized, you can keep developing this, and it will, and these things are not going away, but we can apply the same skill sets. I mean, making games is hard, making 3D is hard, making virtual worlds is hard. We can apply the same skill sets to AI, to rewriting the old industrial system, and I think that's a much better use of our time.
Well, very interesting to see you take this transition fund into its next phase. And it'll be very interesting to see what you invest in next, because you're investing in quite a wide variety of things. And, we'll be certainly tracking your progress at Pathfounders. But for now, David Helgason of Transition VC, thanks very much for joining Pathfounders.
Thanks, Mike. See you around.